We're going to take about 10 or 15 minutes then to just anything that's on your heart from your community that you'd like to share very, very briefly. 30 seconds. We'll hear from a scattering of you from different communities. There are people from over 20 different faith communities in the Valley. And it would be really wonderful if we heard from a couple of the different places that have not already spoken. So just, why don't you raise, you don't have, the way you raise your virtual hand is just go to reactions, click on the reactions, and you'll see something called raise hand. Go ahead, Mary Ellen, you're on. Just unmute yourself.
That was quick. My name is Mary Ellen Shea. I'm in Amherst. I've been a member of Hope Community Church since 96 or 97. I just want to give honor to our administrator who died this past year. Many of you may know Sister Rhonda Gordon.
Yes.
So the Hope Community Church is a historically African-American church. It's a family-led church. And but it's been very popular with lots of white folks. And in the 90s, it was very popular. And the family found that there was so much acting out of white privilege that it was not what they expected. And Sister Rhonda, who was her profession was doing diversity work in corporations, led our community over 2 years in white privilege work and internalized oppression work. So it was it was early on. And I just want to add the last thing, which is that what I learned was that the distance between me and any other person is the distance between me and my God. And so that was the takeaway that I had. And that's why it was compelling work to do and to continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
I could speak about the Unitarian Universalist.
Please.
And that one reason, actually I switched from Quakerism to Unitarian Universalism because it was so intentional. We instituted the journey toward wholeness at least 20 years ago. And it was a very intentional piece of work to bring the understanding of white privilege and also internalized oppression, just like the last speaker said, into our lives and our congregations. And it has been a long-term journey. It's still underway, but it's had a very opening experience. It's like the Reverend Doctor who just spoke to say that let's sit at the open table. I mean, the song that we should be singing is, let's all sit at the open table. And Jacqueline Smith also said, what brought her to church? It was the food. So, you know, it's like, in some ways, it's partaking of common meal, you could say, because we're all human beings living simple lives, you know. So that's about all I'd like to say.
So I wondered if I could call on you, Christina Charbet. Christina's a very active member of the Goodwin AME Zion Church. And would you like to just take a moment to share the importance for a community like Amherst or like the North Valley to have a historic Black denomination like AME Zion? You have to unmute yourself if you're willing, Christina.
Hi. I don't know what your question was, but if I have to share anything, that I came to Amherst 30 somewhat years now. I came when my nephew was born, and so that's how I keep track of how many years I've been here. And I was immediately, hooked up with the AME Zion, the African American community, because there was a neighbor, one of our elders, living right next door to my sister. And so from then until now, I've been with Goodwin AME Zion. And what I want to say is, Martin Luther King said that we will perish together as fools. And that really has always struck me, is that we have to get along. We have to respect each other. We have to come together to fight for justice. All the things that we're doing, coming together, even here on Zoom, to stay connected during a pandemic, anything that we do together is going to be successful. And because we want to be a model community, we want to be able to say that we're not going to be the ones that are going to perish together as fools, because we are going to be the ones that are going to overcome the challenges that keep us apart. We're going to look at everything that's done structurally and systemically that keep us apart, and we're going to work together. And you don't have to tackle big things all at once. You can just tackle the most important issue at once and work on that together. And then when something else comes up on the surface, work on it together. And that's basically what I have to say.
Thank you, Christina. I think we have time just for one more voice. And among the ION congregations, the one of the predominantly white congregations that many, oh, I see we have a bunch of hands raised. I'm going to not say what I was going to say. Go ahead, Naz. Please speak.
Thank you, everybody. I just wanted to say a verse from our holy book, the Quran, which is what guides us on this topic and how much it means to us about being judicial in our personal life and in our life with others. It says, God in the Quran says, "O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even though it be against yourselves or your parents or your kin, be he rich or poor. Allah is a better protector to both than you. So follow not the lusts of your heart, lest you may avoid justice. And if you distort your witness or refuse to give it, verily Allah is ever well acquainted with what you do. And we are all accountable for our actions and our deeds." Thank you.
So I thought I saw, all right, go ahead, Dusty and Dorothy. Yes, there you are.
Okay,
But let me just say before you go on, the First Church, we've been very fortunate that they were real pioneers among the primarily white congregations. In 2009, in response to a national message to all their congregations, they established an anti-racism ministry team. And that's been very, very important to the rest of our congregations to feel you leading the way. Go ahead, Dorothy.
I just feel like this is just the beginning. And I loved what Smitty said, that the blood, that we all came on identified as blood. And that was a glitch, but it was a wisdom. And I think this ending part, I had looked forward to just some in-depth with a few people, but I would have missed what each one that has shared now. It's brief, but it's potent, it's food. And so I just want to say there were things that didn't happen today that we had imagined, but Spirit is moving. This is God's healing all of us, whatever our backgrounds, understand that deeper, higher wisdom that's beyond our control. And I really, really hope that we keep this list, that we have another opportunity to continue this discussion. That's all. And I think I saw Anita's hand was up.
And I wanted to say something too.
Anita, I think you had your hand up. Did you want to share very briefly?
Sure. And just quickly, I am so grateful for this experience and for the stories. And Jacqueline, please, I was listening through tears with your story about your ancestors who had to suffer enslavement. And I just wanted, what it made me think of is how conflicted some of us who are raised Christian can feel at a moment like this, because Christianity was often the source of justification and the source of pain, and that our challenge now is to be able to find and connect with those positive parts, with the message of faith and hope and love that's going to move us all to action with other Christians and with our brothers and sisters, no matter what our belief system. So thank you so much.
Mhm. Right, Peter?
Ash, why don't you go ahead?
Yes, I am so grateful for everybody who has come together here. It to me reflects the power of our collective belief, whatever our particular faith community may be, in the role of our spirit and our faith in our lives and our actions. And it to me is such a resource for the town and for the area in thinking about how to move forward, that we have to understand, we all believe, whatever our backgrounds, that we're children of God. We were, and that principle of the oneness of humankind, however diverse we may be, is an enormous spiritual resource for addressing the very real issues that are facing us. And so I hope that we can take encouragement from hearing each other's stories and for being able then to move forward. I'm so grateful to Jacqueline and Smitty and Yawar and Jeff and everybody who's sharing their stories. But there are so many stories out there, and there's so much energy and there's so much spirit that I hope we can all take courage from that and think of moving forward. Thank you. That's my
Thank you, Ash.
So thank you all for your sharing. And this is not the end. And Katie will say very briefly in a minute our follow-up. But if you could stay about 10 more minutes, we're coming close to the end here. And I'd like to ask Annie to sing a song.